Welcome back to another podcast episode where we help aspiring developers get jobs and junior developers grow. We are doing a review on Springboard. I know it's been requested by quite a few people, so hopefully you enjoy it. But as usual, I brought on 3 graduates from Springboard. We're going to talk about how it went, kind of get a feel for where they're at right now. We'll start with the intros just like usual. Matt, if you could mention like what your background was, where you came from going into software engineering, and then, are you currently looking for a position? You currently working for a company? But tell us about yourself.
Sure. My name is Matt McFarland. I'm from Portland, Oregon. Prior to getting into software engineering, I was a product manager for 10 years. So have worked alongside software engineering teams, but not doing the code part of that. So I've kind of always had an interest in it. I got laid off at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, like a lot of other people did. And so that was a chance to kind of do some career reflection. And as a result of that, decided to go ahead and, see if coding was a viable career path for myself. I really enjoy it. And so kind of went all in, went to Springboard, graduated as a result. And I am currently employed with a small startup company named Procure Now in the government technology sector as a software engineer.
Okay, really cool. I remember. So, you were the product manager, I think, that I was looking into. Do you feel like what? I'm just curious. What was the moment where you started thinking about like even transferring to becoming a software engineer and learning how to code while you were a product manager? Like, what was that moment in your head?
I've had an interest in it since I was a kid. During computer class, I kind of was always pretty advanced, and I remember doing some like basic word games and like basic language like way back when. And so, working, I just always kind of been interested in it. Probably like 5-ish years ago, we were down to just like 1 or 2 engineers on the product that I was managing. And we were just getting killed with like death by 1,000 paper cuts with just like all these little like CSS things and like word changes, just like some real basic stuff. And I was like, hey, I'm kind of dabbling in Rails. It was a Rails app. I was kind of dabbling in it anyways. I was like, get me set up and I can like probably knock some of this stuff out. So I did that. I have some, pull requests still kind of out there in the wild from that. But yeah, that's kind of where I, got interested in it to sort of start. That really kind of whet my appetite. And then, life kind of gets in the way and got caught up back in the product management stuff. But when I got laid off, it was a good chance to kind of go all in. Okay.
You saw that as an opportunity. Good for you. Awesome. All right. For me, I've been a software engineer at a few different companies, mainly focused on the front end until the 3rd position. It was a full stack position. I love coding. I've loved it for a long, long time. I actually didn't get into coding because I always thought like if I made it a profession, I'd get sick of it. And that, that was something I always feared. And then I tried it and it didn't happen. But in 2020 beginning, started my own company. Now I help software engineers become software engineers professionally. So that's what I do. But that's it for me. How about you, Chris?
For me, I've been studying on and off software engineering since about late 2018. That's when I started just taking a few classes on Treehouse. Did it off and on because at the time I still am doing property management. I own a few units I just renovated at the time. And so that's what I've been doing ever since then. But ever since 2018, I've been on and off learning front-end development. And it wasn't until April of last year when I joined Springboard that I really took the leap for it. And yes, and so I'm pretty new to just finishing Springboard. So I'm still applying out there. But I had before 2018 had some experience with programming back in high school. So that's over 10 years ago where I did some HTML, JavaScript stuff. But ever since then, I pretty much 2018 is when I just really started to get a big interest in it and always wanted to design stuff with coding.
Okay. Sounds really cool. Well, good luck with the job search.
Yeah, thank you.
Kudo, how about you?
Yeah, so I just graduated from college back in it was August 2019. And prior to that, I was a computer engineering major. And then I switched to a supply chain major-ish. It was still in engineering, but anyways, I felt like I switched out because I felt like I wasn't mature enough to handle the workload at that time. So I went to the supply chain major. It was kind of sales infused, graduated, did an internship at an insurance sales company. And I felt like it wasn't scratching an itch. I wasn't problem solving on a day-to-day basis. I was just convincing people and stuff. It was, I don't know. I just felt like there was something inside me that wasn't being satisfied. So my internship ended around February, March, right when COVID started. And I really didn't know what I was going to do. And then I just remembered that there was such thing as a coding boot camp. I remember this guy on YouTube named Engineer Truth. He went to one or something. So I looked into that because I was always interested in tech. I was in computer engineering. I guess now I felt like it was time for me to kind of step up to the bat and be able to do it. So I just finished the Springboard program. It was very, I definitely liked how they built us up very progressively, and we just kind of never got thrown to the wolves. It was always just good teaching throughout the whole thing. So now I'm just in the process of looking for a job. I have a list of things I need to do every day, and I just do that and just kind of pray and hope for results. So that's where I'm at now.
I love that you have a list. I mean, that's one thing most people don't have, and it holds them back.
Yeah, it's just if you can just be, I just want to promise myself that I'm going to be consistent in what I do every day. And if I should get a job eventually. I can't stress any more than that. I'm just going to do what I have to do and see what happens.
That's such a good attitude.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. All right, cool. Everyone ready to jump right into it?
Yep.
All right. What was the application process like?
I guess I'm going first. It was interesting. I mean, they had us, if I can remember correctly, we had to do just a little job. They had I was looking at different coding boot camps, and I did a pre-screen, they had free practice materials. So I kind of did a little bit of that. And then for Springboard, they just had us do, I can't remember what it was, but it was a simple JavaScript function. It wasn't really anything complex. And anybody else remember what else we had to do besides that? Because it wasn't that hard, and then we got in. It wasn't that difficult.
Yeah, I remember we had a phone call. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I totally forgot that they had us do a function thing. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, but I remember the phone call. It was pretty much talking about our experiences, if we had any struggles programming before then, just basic onboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I filled out an application online, was contacted probably the next day by one of their recruiters / sales guys. Had a pretty simple, straightforward conversation with them. Then I wanted to test out of the kind of intro course. They have a short sort of intro thing that you can test out of if you feel like you're kind of past that. So there was a hacker rank challenge. I think it was 3 questions. I actually had some trouble with it. That one of the, they had the instructions were back, it was spit out the numbers in descending order, and the thing accepted ascending order, not descending order. And then there was another question where I couldn't get it to print on one line. It kept printing on all new lines for some reason. And so I took some screenshots and was hey, there's some weird stuff going on. So I didn't pass because it wouldn't accept the answer. But I sent it to them. And so, as a result of that, they're yeah, you're fine. But I had done some self-study stuff prior to that. So when I looked at the kind of intro curriculum, I was I've done this twice now. I'm ready to jump in. So.
Okay, that's interesting. So they have a course that they require you to take, and you can test out of that to skip it.
Yeah.
Does that course cost?
It does, but I think if you continue on in the next one, they just apply that to like your tuition. So it's sort of free if you keep going.
So if if you go through what happens if you go through that course and you're still not really ready, but you tell them you're ready? Can you make it right into the coding bootcamp?
I don't know. It wasn't my scenario, so I can't speak to that. I don't know.
Yeah, so I remember I did it. I think I did the problems and just went straight into the course. I don't think I did any pre-course work, from what I remember.
Okay, sounds.
Yeah, and like I know they had like you could pay for a little pre-course and then apply it to your actual boot camp. But from what I saw, you could just get the pre-course work for free from Rhythm School, like. Because I know they're collaborating on it, and I just saw they were like, "Oh, $400 for this pre-course work." But then I was like, "Wait, Rhythm School has like everything that would be pre-course work here, so I'm just gonna like dabble in that instead. Like, I'm not gonna pay if I don't have to and commit." Yeah,
interesting.
Okay. Nice pro tip.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good tip. I also saw that. Here, let me pull it up. My other screen, but I also saw that they guarantee a refund if you don't get a job. Do you know the specifics on that? It says job guaranteed refunds among 211 eligible students who have completed the 6-month data. Oh, that's data science.
No, it applies to this. I can pull it up. Let me find it.
I think like my main question is, they probably have stipulations, right? You probably have to be trying to get that job. Like, do you know the stipulations?
I don't know exact. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know the exact, but it's basically you have to like apply to a certain number of jobs a week. They have a job tracker. They have a little Chrome browser plugin that makes it easy to record your kind of like application history. So I think they try to make it easy on you, but it's basically like you have to either reach out, like make contacts, or be doing applications like every week to keep up your eligibility with it. And then I'm sure there's a salary level that you have to, like, if you get an offer at X level, you have to accept it.
Yeah, 50,000.
50,000. Okay. And so we're, like maybe we're inaccurate about this. We're just going off of our best memory. So definitely check with their advisor.
I have it pulled up right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's, you promise to apply for 4 qualifying positions a week, reach out to 7 individuals per week, conduct 2 informational interviews per month, and then have schedule career coach calls. Yeah.
That compared to other coding boot camps, that's actually nothing. That's interesting. Okay. Well, so my opinion is I think a lot of coding boot camps are continuing to sprout up. Market's becoming oversaturated year after year. And I think this job guarantee refund is going to be necessary to start being competitive among other coding boot camps. I'm curious if it will be, but mark my words, I think it will be in the near future. But that's still, I don't know. I kind of think that gives a leg up with Springboard for sure. Okay, I was just curious. What about, like, I'm curious, what is the stack that you learned? Was it a JavaScript stack or, what was it?
Yeah, it was, first they taught us like the HTML, CSS, but then we went into JavaScript and then stopped that and then went into Python, Flask, and then I think it went to Node and then React.
Okay, so... Wow,
and also SQL, I forgot, Postgres. It was thrown in there somewhere.
What's the length of the program?
I think 9 months. About 9 months.
Yeah, 9 months is like max time. It can be like 6 to 9 months. If you're going really fast, you can do it in 6. 9 months is like the full time.
Yeah, I think they say it's like 700 or 800 hours total.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That is the longest boot camp I've reviewed. So that's full time, at least 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're doing it full time, 5. I think I did it in like 5-ish, but 5 to 6 months, I think full time. And then if you do it part time, like 9.
I almost have a lot of confidence just because you're putting so much time into this. Wow. Okay. I want to hear about the curriculum. What do you think of it? What do you think of the program?
I thought it was very, very thorough. Like I just, compared to like me graduating from college and like compared to this, like I feel like I have a real tangible skill set. Like I just have it's like a bargaining chip. Like I know my stuff. Like, I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm still a beginner. I'm entry level, but just like I said earlier, like just the way they just built you up in each, aspect, be it the back end or front end, like it was thorough.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd echo that. 5 of 5 on the curriculum. It's super up to date. They just released the software engineering track at like the beginning of 2020 or something like that. So, everything is kind of the latest. It's done by Colt Steele and in conjunction with Rhythm School. If you look up Colt Steele, you can find his videos online and stuff. He has a great teaching style, I think. Everything they teach you is kind of the latest, with React, it's, functional components and hooks. I really like that they started you with kind of like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, and then drop you into Python for a little bit. Cause I felt like, in this job, you're always like learning new stuff. And so it's kind of like great to like, here's some stuff and then, whoa, here's some other stuff that's like, it's not hard to make that leap, but it's like, it really kind of like shakes you out of that a little bit. And then they go back into JavaScript to do Node and React. And so I felt like kind of doing that, really giving you like 2 backends to work, frameworks to work within. I felt like that was just, kind of builds your confidence because you're like, hey, like I can switch gears. I can learn new stuff. I can see different ways of doing these things. I felt like that was really, really good.
Yeah, and I had previously, back in 2019, did one other bootcamp that Springboard was just a lot better than this one. The other one I did was Coding Dojo, but I had to stop like halfway into that because they were doing like a transitional period where they only had like one teacher teaching like 3 or 4 different cohorts. So after that, I switched. I actually heard about this bootcamp through Colt Steele, one of his Udemy courses I was taking. And so when I found out about that, I pretty much was waiting for a little bit of reviews and jumped right on it. But I thought this was really good. There was some, I think, areas of that could do some improvement, but it was like one of the better ones I've was able to research.
Okay. A lot of good words on it. And don't worry, we have a section of constructive criticism. So we're definitely going to hit that for sure. But okay, so when you said JavaScript, probably front end, to Python back end, to Node back end, I was a little worried. And then, when we re-emphasized 6-month to 9-month coding bootcamp, like that is more than enough time to be able to teach 2 stacks. I love the idea of learning multiple languages. I just don't like fitting it in 3 months for a full time. That's interesting. Do you feel like, one tricky part is transitioning from the front end to the back end, and a lot of coding bootcamps sometimes have trouble transitioning and people struggle with that. Do you feel like that was a smooth transition? You felt like the curriculum was lined up well enough to...
Yeah, I think it was a pretty good transition because from when they taught us JavaScript, they gave us a pretty good foundation into transitioning to Python. And Python is kind of similar in some ways, like from how they introduced us to Python, because they taught us the basics again, like with, I think it's called dictionaries and objects. But I thought it was a good transition because then after that, then it was Flask and then Flask to Node.
Okay. What was the hardest part about the curriculum?
I would say, I don't know if there was any part that was particularly hard. I would say it just, like at the beginning, I was just a noob. Like I was just like anything, like simple things would just confuse me. And then like looking back on it, it's just like, oh, I just didn't have fundamentals down. So once I got the fundamentals down, it was just like, you could throw the backend at me or Node, anything at me. Nothing is like completely foreign. Like I know what a for loop is. Like I've seen it a million times by now. Like there's nothing that can really like I mean, obviously, I would say honestly, the data structure and algorithm, that is hard. Like that's just hard in itself. So that's just hard in general. But other than that, like once I had the fundamentals down, it wasn't too hard.
Okay. What about you two?
It was also the algorithms I struggled on the most, like because they did teach us algorithms, but I was at the very like one of the very end courses, like lessons at the end was like algorithms, and that's the one I probably struggled the most on.
Yeah, I'd echo that as well. I think that's one that's just like it's kind of hard to get your head around. It's it's hard to sort of put it in context of web development sometimes, and so I feel like if I would make a recommendation, it would be to sprinkle that in throughout your time, so you're not just saving it up for the end, because that is a slog. So I would definitely recommend like kind of sprinkling those modules in with the rest of your stuff as you're kind of going along, so it's not just like a big chunk at the end that you got to get through.
Yeah, I think that's a really good recommendation. And I remember I came from Full Stack Academy, and one thing they definitely did right was dove into data structures and algorithms. It was a really painful week. Everyone hated themselves. And then we kind of went into the rest of the curriculum, and then we kind of stacked on and started practicing a lot. And it gave us time to just like practice it a little bit in our spare time and just like solidify it in our head. So I think that's a really good suggestion. Shoot, it sounds like everyone's pretty confident with the curriculum. You feel good about it. You feel good about yourselves. Would you say that you're able to tackle a lot of like whiteboard interviews and coding challenges that are coming up in interviews potentially?
Well, I just had my mock interview, and so if you fail it twice, you don't get the job guarantee. So the first time, like I was just not ready. I had practiced like data structures and stuff, but like just the whole like environment, like it was a shared like IDE, like he could edit it at the same time I could, and like I couldn't really see his face. I just met him just right then and there, and like it was just really just nerves. Like my brain just like froze. But the second time around, I did it with the same dude, and I was just a lot more calm. So it was fine after that.
Okay. Okay. So you don't get the job guarantee if you fail your second mock interview, correct?
Yeah. Like there's a technical mock interview, there's a behavioral one, and then there's a project walkthrough. So if you fail either of them twice, you don't get the job guarantee.
Do they give you that heads up when they promise that job guarantee?
No, I did not know that until now. I literally just like realized that.
Oh, that's
maybe it's somewhere. I don't know, but I didn't realize it until I failed the first one. I was like, oh gosh.
Okay, that's sketchy. They need to bring that up in the beginning. I don't like that at all. Interesting. Okay. So what about you two? Did you feel pretty prepared for coding challenges?
I feel like that's something you just have to practice. And so when I did my first coding interview, I bombed it. It's the same thing. I froze. I was just like, I am so nervous that like I don't even remember how to code anymore. So I feel like it's just one of those, and I had done very little. I mean, at the beginning of my kind of learn to code journey, I had been doing stuff on like Code Wars or HackerRank or LeetCode, but I just kind of stopped doing that. And like, I don't know why. I just expected that I was going to be able to like jump into like an interview setting and like do well. So yeah, I feel like it's just one of those things that like, you just got to practice that stuff. And before you actually like commit to doing because you only get 2 shots. So, I would definitely recommend spending some time on LeetCode or, whichever one of your choice, like before you jump into that, because you got to kind of have that at the ready and, time yourself or so. I don't know, try to put yourself in like a nervous environment. Cause I feel like that's the thing that like tripped me up the most, was just like having someone kind of like watching over my shoulder and feeling like, I don't know, it just really froze me up.
Well, let's forget about the mock interview. What about real company interviews? Has anyone had a coding challenge for an actual company?
Yeah, I have, and I didn't like have any problem. I felt more nervous like during the whiteboarding interview with Springboard than I did with the actual company.
It's probably a good thing. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because when I was going with Springboard, the first few interviews, I just completely bombed. Like how Matt was saying, I totally forgot what even a for loop was. Like the first time I did the interview, and then it probably took me, I think, like 3 or 4 additional interviews where I started to get comfortable with Springboard, because I remember the technical interview was always the same person, but the whiteboard they kind of like switched off with different instructors. But yeah, I eventually got comfortable enough to with interviews.
Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. I feel pretty confident about the curriculum. I think you had some good advice, Matt, about sprinkling that in the beginning. I think that is helpful, especially with such a hard topic. I like that. I want to hear from you, Matt and Chris, though. Did they give you any sort of heads up that you'd lose that job guarantee, like in the beginning, before you signed up?
In the beginning, I don't remember ever seeing it up until I think it was the first or second interview that I saw, that I was like digging around in the student resources. And that's when I saw that, like, yeah, you only have 2 attempts for each different interview. And if you go past that, then you don't get the guarantee anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. So if they did say in the beginning, it was like maybe like small print or something where I didn't see it.
Yeah, same. I don't really remember in the whatever I signed, like I don't remember that specifically being called out. Not to say that it wasn't. I don't remember that. It doesn't stand out in my mind like the job, how many applications you're doing a week or like contacts did. And then, yeah, same thing. Like I was kind of like peeking ahead or something and looking at some resources and kind of noticed that as well. I was like, oh, you have to do this and you have 2 shots, or else you don't get it. So yeah, also didn't kind of same.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, at least for people watching this video, they know now, and that's something they should know before they sign up. But overall, I feel pretty good about hearing about your experiences with the curriculum for sure. What do you think of the instructors?
I thought Cole did a great job. Each video, he thoroughly explained everything, and I really want to give a shout out to like what was really helpful were the TAs, like being able to just kind of hop online and do a live chat and like send a Google Drive on what you're struggling on, like that saved me at the beginning. Like that, just like I don't know, just being stumped like early on when you're just like kind of a noob at things, you just don't like, you're just like a baby lamb, whatever. Like having a TA to come in and just kind of just explain things to you, like at any time during the day, like within 2 minutes, they're online with you and they're able to help you. That was super clutch.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I never got the chance to use the TAs. Like whenever I had a problem, I would always like save it for the mentor meeting that we would have every week. Mm-hmm. But I thought for Colt, I thought he did a really good like job explaining like any concepts or the languages that we had to learn.
Yeah, I mean, your primary instructor is Colt because it's the video. He's the one walking you through the videos, or so. Yeah, kudos, A+. He's got a great teaching style, great demeanor. Love when they leave in some of his mistakes in the videos. There's a couple Easter eggs in there. It's pretty fun. Same thing, TAs. So the only thing with TAs I think you got to be aware of is that they are in sort of a standard business hours. I think it's 9 to 6 or so Pacific time. And so that worked great for me because I'm in the Pacific time zone. So pretty much, and I was working this like a job. So I was pretty much doing it, 8 to 6 every day. So that worked well when I had some questions. I often found that just the act of writing up my question into a chat helped me get myself unstuck, kind of like rubber duck debugging. So I feel like, I don't know, 70% of the time as I'm typing something, I'm like, oh, right, that's where I'm, that's what I'm missing, or have an idea or something come to me to try out. But yeah, the TAs were great. And then, I think another big piece of it is your 30-minute mentor meetings every week. My mentor, I actually had 2 mentors. I started with one who was a software engineering manager. And I felt like he was awesome, great guy. I just felt like I was kind of more interested in someone who was more of kind of like in the code every day, as opposed to a manager. I felt like my code reviews weren't quite as in depth as I was hoping for. So I switched after like 4-ish weeks. They have a process you can go through if you want to switch your mentors up. So the second mentor that I got was more of like a senior engineer doing code stuff every day. His process for reviewing my code was through pull requests through GitHub, that I would add him to those. So, I felt like that was really good to kind of like simulate the job environment, because that's essentially what you're doing is getting, comments on your code reviews. Or your pull requests. So I felt like that was really helpful. That's where I got a lot of really good feedback on my code.
Okay. I like that one-on-one mentorship. That's every week throughout the entire program?
Yeah, once a week.
Huh. That's really good. So, okay, were you saying the name Colt, C-O-L-T?
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you have actual instructors or is it just videos?
Just videos.
Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, that's one way to save money. I mean, Colt's program or his videos, they're pretty good. I actually, I got to be honest, I haven't gone through them myself, but people in my communities, they talk about them all the time. So I've heard great things. Interesting. So they just have TAs. It's actually really smart. Okay. So it sounds good. It sounds like you had good experiences with the TAs. You had good experience with the mentorship. And in my opinion, those are the two things you probably need. You probably don't need an instructor. But if your TAs, like if you have a bad experience with the TAs, that can definitely break your entire experience. So overall, that sounds good. What was so when you graduated, what kind of a job search assistance did they provide? What'd they help you with?
Well, I just graduated, so I mean, I have like a career, like I'm gonna plan out my job hunt with a career coach like next week, and then I imagine like the list I read off of, I'm just gonna do all that stuff and talk to my career coach every week. I don't know what else like they do we'll be doing besides that. Maybe Matt can answer that.
So they like throughout the course, there's various career modules. So they have like 8-ish career calls that you do with they have like a number of career coaches that you can work with. So I worked with one guy, Dominic, throughout the whole time. Highly recommend. He was really good. Got a ton of actionable feedback on my resume, LinkedIn profile, that kind of stuff. So you kind of like work on some career stuff throughout the boot camp, and then and then at the end, like Kudo was saying, you do weekly calls. I actually kind of landed an internship, which is where I wound up getting a job. So the timing worked out really well that I did like 10 weeks of internship, and then that was right around when I graduated and just kind of like shifted into full time with the company. So I didn't have to do any of the kind of like post, graduation job hunt stuff that most people would have to do. I got really lucky. So. Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's just pretty much just been like a resume revision, like updating it with any current projects that we had. Like we had 2 capstone projects that we had to do in the program. So it was just been pretty much updating that and then making a plan of action. Like pretty much who am I going to contact, how many places to apply for, tips on websites to use, and just like basic stuff like that.
Okay. Do you feel like if you had a question or you want to talk to a mentor, they're easily accessible to help you out afterwards? Yeah, I know you don't know Kuda.
The mentor I've had, he's really great. Anytime I email him, he'll like respond back. I'd say either same day or next day with any kind of questions. Like even if I have a question on the project I'm working on just for fun, he'll reach out and then answer that. He's a really great guy.
Okay. That sounds good. That sounds really good. I hope I'm going to be able to prize some constructive criticism out of all of you, to be honest. We'll see.
Wait, can I ask a question? I've had this like idea bubbling. So like with the whole process of getting into the boot camp, like I would say there wasn't that much like intense pre-screening to be offering like a job guarantee. So like, I know you interviewed a lot of like boot camps. I wonder how they're able to like have a like sustainable profit model and like offer everybody a job guarantee. Like there's so like I don't understand how you're able, like, are these jobs that people are getting bad jobs? Like I don't understand.
Yeah, I definitely have a really good guess with that. Now, to be clear, this is a guess. Legally speaking, this is only a guess. So my assumption is they saved a lot of money not hiring instructors. That's a big sink into any coding bootcamp business. Usually good instructors, you're paying over $100,000. A lot of coding bootcamps get away, paying a lot less than that, but it's hard to pull instructors, hard to get good instructors. They want to continue coding. They have to give it up for teaching. So if they had if they just go off of Colt's learnings, it's really, really smart. I'm really impressed with them for that. As long as their TAs are really good. That's one thing. Now, it sounds like the decisions, maybe I'm wrong. This is just, me looking from outside in. It's very easy to make those two interviews or, what they're checking, qualitative decisions based on whether you pass them or not. Now, I would assume for legal reasons, they wouldn't do that. And they probably want to try to improve those interviews. But there are definitely ways that you can, even if they like kind of know their stuff, but you can tell that they're not that serious about, you can tell that the student's not that serious about getting a job, or you feel like they're not really going to work hard towards it. There are definitely ways to fail a student in one of those interviews and completely botch that guarantee. Now, I'm not saying they're doing it, but to me, I would, as a student going in, I would investigate that a lot. I would ask them a lot of questions about those interviews. What grading scales, like what exactly quantitatively do they use to grade those last interviews? And if they don't have good answers for that, I would be skeptical on that.
You're talking about the mock interviews at the end? Not the pre-screening ones, right? Yeah.
Yeah, at the end. So with the pre-screening, that's a whole other topic, but I think like at the end is really that gatekeeper of whether they have to deliver on that or not. And I would definitely encourage all students to really ask a lot of questions. I would have to think maybe for about an hour of what specific questions I would ask. So I don't have that answer, but.
Well, they have a rubric for what would be considered a pass or a fail for the mock interviews. And for the behavioral one, I'll say this, I did an interview. I did one behavioral one, and the lady was very impressed with me. I did good in it, but she's like, "Oh, you didn't answer the questions in the STAR method or whatever." So you're gonna hate me for this, but let's just do it again, right? So she failed me. But then I look back at the rubric, and their logic is they companies generally they just don't want you to, they're gonna remove you from the interview process if you just have really bad answers. You're just an oddball. They're not necessarily going to hire you, but just trying to screen for just completely by answers or whatever. And based off of my interview, I well exceeded I did not do bad at all. By the rubric, I'm okay, I should have passed this, but since I didn't go by the STAR method or whatever, I didn't pass. But the rubric, I'm looking at the rubric, I didn't, I can't bring it up right now. It's somewhere deep in there, but it was literally to pass, you had to do the bare minimum. And I definitely did the bare minimum. And now I'm taking another interview. I'm okay, I know I'm pretty sure I'm going to pass the next time, but it's you didn't really follow the rubric, and this could be my job guarantee on the line.
Yeah. And that's a really good question. So it sounds like you would really have to examine how they decide to what they decide to actually I would almost it's hard to ask this, but I would almost ask questions and like give examples of what kind of responses would pass that rubric, what would actually match. Because I feel like you need very specific examples. Otherwise, like it's really hard to ask. Like it's really easy to. I don't think they do this, but it's really easy to just word your responses of why you didn't pass based on you not matching their model in very vague terms. And some companies do this, some educational programs do this. But I would have to dig into their terms of service. I would like probably go line by line and just look at like everything before I could say like how they might get away with something like that if they're bringing in anyone without like a gatekeeper, like without high standards. So like every coding bootcamp, well, actually not everyone, most coding bootcamps are starting to offer a job guarantee, but you have to read the fine print. You have to. And most students don't. So a lot of coding bootcamps get away with not even listing them as a student. They don't have to report that data. Like there's a lot of like messed up things coding bootcamps are capable of doing. But yeah, I'm not fully able to answer that question, but it's a good question.
Yeah. So I just brought it up. So like you need a 2 to pass and a 1. So the 1 is a failure. So here's like a 1. The candidate provides disingenuous answers on multiple occasions throughout the interview. The candidate may exude negative traits such as arrogance, competitiveness, or ulterior motive, aka money. The candidate's description of their work or skills may be outdated with no indication of self-improvement. The candidate has no or only generic questions. Like that's horrible. Like for you to get a 1, you have to be doing absolutely horrible, right? Based on that description. And I thoroughly exceeded that. And maybe I got a 2, maybe I got a 3, I don't know. Or I should have got a 2 or 3, I don't know. But I definitely did not deserve a 1 to fail.
Yeah,
you know, so it's like up to her. Like each person that's interviewing is, I guess it's up to them. Like, you know, like you could just they're not like impartial. Like, you know, there's no like standard.
Yeah, really varied based off the like person grading you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the project interview and the behavioral, that one I had no problem. I had like really easygoing, nice instructors grading me. Yep. But the like technical algorithm one, that one I just had a guy that was just really strict about it, and I had to do that one over and over again.
Yeah, so no one's going to be fully impartial. And what I like to encourage people to say, as long as you've read the terms of service and you know what you're getting into, assume good intentions. If you haven't read the terms of service, you don't know what you're getting into, you don't really have a lot of control over that situation, and you have to react to it more than proactively set yourself up for that. But these are good questions. We're not saying that they are giving biased feedback and failing people on purpose, but these are things that are possible with a program like this and a guarantee like this. And I think this is more of just like a general overview of what you should be aware of in the fine print for all coding boot camps. These are the kind of things that come up, people skip right over them, and they shouldn't. So good luck with your second interview for sure. Yeah, it's a good question. All right. Let's dive into the constructive criticism. What could they do better?
I think for me, the only thing that I really had a problem with was pretty much the 2 requirements that you had to pass the interview. I mean, there's the 4 different interviews. You can only have 2 like chances at each. That one, I think they should either expand on, maybe give you 4 or 5 chances. Because I know with the technical interview, that one I wasn't prepared at all, like the first time and a little bit the second time. I think maybe expanding that, or even just getting rid of the requirement at all. Like I think maybe changing that if you want the job guarantee, you got to complete all like projects and then complete the interviews instead of putting the restriction that you only have 2 attempts. That one, I think that's probably my biggest criticism with them.
Okay. That's good feedback. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, so I have a couple. So like echoing some of that, I feel like having a place where you can do some practice before you do one of your 2 attempts, or, you know, so it's a little bit lower stakes, but you still have the pressure of someone like watching over your shoulder. I feel like would be a good thing. I think there is like 1 practice. I think they allow you to do like schedule 1 practice before your 2 attempts. But it would be kind of nice if there was like a place where you could kind of like schedule a few attempts. Cause I know like, I mean, for me too, like I totally froze that first time, and I probably would have done a lot better if I had had like 3 or 4 practice rounds before actually making like an attempt at one of those, you know, the 2 kind of high stakes ones. So yeah, so I would definitely echo that. So I think like my biggest criticism, and this is like the nature of this type of a boot camp, because it's self-paced, it's asynchronous. You kind of start with a cohort, but that doesn't mean you're going to be working through it at the same pace. You know, I mean, everyone's in different time zones and working around their schedules. Some people are working, some people are not. So I think my biggest criticism is there's not really a good currently, there's not, or at least from my experience, there wasn't a really good like student to student interaction. It was really kind of up to you to sort of like get that. People were not super engaged in the Slack community. You would see generally the same 15 or 20-ish people that were kind of answering questions or being responsive to other students. There's a lot of prompts throughout the course to like post your, you know, capstone projects or, you know, proposals and, you know, coding exercises in Slack for feedback. And it was, you know, you usually would not hear anything from anybody. Where like, so before this one, I was doing a local boot camp that would have been in person, have, you know, not been COVID, but they really emphasized pair programming. So you did pair programming all day, every day, 4 days a week. And then the 5th day was, you know, working on a solo project. And so I feel like coming from that to this, where there is like no pair programming, was like quite a like stark difference. And, you know, in most work environments, you're going to be doing some pair programming or coding with others. And there's like really not an opportunity for that right now. I know that like I spoke to one of the community managers after graduating, and they were looking for feedback. And so I gave them this already, and I'm pretty sure they're working on something like this. But like I hosted a study group every week to try to like get some of that like peer-to-peer interaction. I also helped organize some people into teams for a NASA Space Apps hackathon over a weekend to, again, sort of try to get some of that like in, you know, kind of pair programming experience or like working on the same code with someone else. But that's like totally up to you as a student to try to drive. And it's really hard to do that, again, because of like the time zones and everyone being distributed and self-paced. So I'm pretty sure that they've got some stuff in the works for that. But that would be kind of like my biggest criticism, I think, is that, you know, if that's something that you're looking for or that you want, that you're not going to really get that, at least not in its current form.
Okay.
I would, okay, y'all tell me if I, like, Matt and Chris, tell me if I just missed over this. But at the beginning, like, I know there was like orientations, and I really didn't pay much to them. I don't know how valuable they were. I don't know what was in them, but like for me, at the beginning of the course, it was like the first, like, it was like the Connect 4 project, I think, or something like that. But I guess I didn't know how to use the course, so I didn't download the code that they kind of gave us to like give us, like, they did like all the hard parts that would make Connect 4 hard, and I just didn't know to download it. So I was like freaking out, like not knowing how to like do Connect 4. Like I'm fresh out the gates. I don't know how to make Connect 4. And I guess maybe that was in the training. I don't know like how to use the course and everything. Like another thing, I didn't know how to, I didn't know that like how to use the, there's like a slider. So like you can like say like, okay, you want to complete the course in 6 months, right? You're gonna be working 40 hours a week. You need to be at week, 10, you need to be at this module and this like that. And I didn't realize that was even a thing until maybe like 25% in. And like, luckily I was on track because I was just working every day. But I don't know, maybe the stuff was in the orientation. I just skipped over like a dummy. Was it in there? Did y'all do the orientation?
I honestly don't remember an orientation at all. Yeah, no, I don't remember.
Yeah. I did the orientation. I don't remember it very well. It was short. I remember it only being like maybe 30 minutes, and it was like a Zoom call, and it was just kind of like a very general
that's exactly
overview. Yeah. And it wasn't really like detailed about like, here's where to find different resources within the material. And I feel like a lot of that was a little bit of trial. As a product manager, I just click on every button, like sort of by nature. So I feel like I found like that slider that you're talking about. Like I found that, pretty quickly. Yeah. I did miss some resources. Sometimes they're a little buried. It's a little hard to find some of the like download the starter code stuff. So there were a few of those. But yeah, I definitely encourage, click on a lot of stuff and like kind of do some investigation, and reach out to the TAs if you're like really stuck. They might be like, hey, you missed the starter code.
Starter code, yeah. Okay,
that's good feedback. I mean, it sounds like everyone, unless you were a product manager like Matt and explored everything, you would have missed something really important to keep on track with everything. That's good feedback. I hope they hear it. I think that's really good feedback. Okay. This overall, okay. So what I like to do is kind of sum everything that I just heard and you tell me where I'm wrong. How's that sound? All right. I'm really bad at this. So, it sounds like, so it's a 6-month program minimum. You're learning 2 stacks. I think you have enough time to be able to do that. Sounds like the curriculum is solid. I love that. If for some reason the instructor thing still, it makes me laugh a little bit, because it's smart and it's really hard to get away with that at a coding boot camp. But it sounds like the TAs really pull that together. They cared about you. The mentors cared about you. Or if that you're not clicking with the mentor, you get a new one. You have that option. That's good. Sounds like you have a lot of support. I wish they would have focused on data structures and algorithms a little bit more, especially if like you went over JavaScript fundamentals or Python fundamentals and then focused on that a little bit. I think that would have been good timing. I wouldn't have done it in the very beginning like Full Stack Academy did. But it does sound like I love that their interviews scare you more than actual interviews. That's a good sign. And I'm definitely not a fan of their policy with the job guarantee refund. And I think we talked about that enough for sure. And that's something that I can see it hurting their reputation. And they need to be very careful about that because that's something that will change a really good experience to a really bad one very quickly. And that, but it's, if we're not hearing anything, it sounds like whatever they're doing is working. People are getting jobs. I feel like this is a really solid coding bootcamp if you have the time to give up 6 months of your life. Is there an option to do like a part-time? Did it say like 18 months or something like that?
I think so. They also have an option that if you're in the program and something happens, you can like go on leave. They also have that option too.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 9 months if you're doing it part-time, which they consider to be 20 hours a week. Yeah, like Chris said, you can like take a leave if you need to like put it on pause or put the billing on pause, depending on, they have a couple of different billing options you can do, but you can take like a break. I think you're allowed to, but don't quote me on that.
That's convenient. And that's probably very hard to moderate because if you take a 6-month break, you probably need to redo it.
I don't think it's 6 months. I think it's like a number of weeks max. Yeah.
Gotcha. So how do they do that? So full-time is 6 months, part-time is 9 months? How does that work? It feels like part-time you're not going to get enough.
I think it's just that they calculate the number of hours at like 700 or 800 hours divided by 20 hours a week or 40 hours a week. I think that's where they come up with those.
Yeah, because each section it tells you like an estimate about how long it'll take you, like how many hours.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like with each section, it's probably not 40 hours. It's probably a little bit less if they're able to offer part-time for only 9 months at 20 hours. Otherwise, I would expect it to be a year. Am I doing my math wrong or?
I remember like React, I think that was like close to 40 hours. It might have been like a little more or less. But yeah, it was just pretty much all self-paced, like part-timer or full-timer would get all the same material up front. It just depends on if you want to do it in 5-6 months, then you can kind of consider yourself a full-timer.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
would just say that the estimates aren't necessarily accurate. I mean, like, just because it says it's going to take 700 hours, like if you're moving pretty fast, like it didn't take me 700 hours. I think it took me like 500 or something like that. So, okay. I don't know that like, that's why it's 6 versus 9 months. I don't kind of know exactly what goes into that. I think that they are assuming you're not taking the full time. It's just that their sort of like calculated time is based on like 700 or 800 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I know someone in our cohort was able to do it in like 4 or 5 months, the whole program. And I thought that was that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to add on, like, I mean, maybe I'm just like not like the fastest at the material, but like I personally, like, I would spend maybe like 5 hours or 4 or 5 hours of like real solid work, like 5-6 days a week. And I don't know if I would have been able to finish on time if I had a job like full time. Like I would come home from work and I'd be really tired. Like, so my work wouldn't be that efficient. Like when I'm working on the course, like when I get home. So like, I really I struggle to see myself, like imagining myself being able to finish on time if I had a full-time job. Cause it was a lot of stuff. Like, unless I just have no life at all, like completely no life.
Okay. All right. Well, that also go ahead.
Yeah, just would echo the same thing. I mean, I think that's just sort of software engineering in general. It's like if you dabble in it, like I speaking of experience, I dabbled in it, and it just never took until I was able to dedicate like full time doing it all day, every day, nearly 7 days a week. Like that's when it finally like stuck. So, I mean, it's like learning a language, and if you don't speak it, like you learn it in like high school and then you just never use it, you're going to forget it. So yeah, I would definitely, if you're going to try to do it like part-time or, you're also like working full time. I mean, what's nice about this course is you can do that because it is, self-paced. But that, it's going to be a challenge for sure.
Okay. I think that's really good advice. And it's a different perspective because a lot of people prefer part-time pretty much the only people that do part-time, they have full-time jobs. So they have to do part-time. It's not usually a choice when you have all of your available time. But I think that's really good advice because it's easy to extend something out to like a year or for this even 9 months. And if you're doing the minimum required for, 9 months or even a year, it's easy to forget things, especially if you're not applying it to personal projects and applying it to complex problems. And okay. I think that's really good advice. All right. So last piece of the podcast, we went over this quickly. This was actually a lot of good feedback, but we just finished quickly. This is awesome. Okay. So last piece of the podcast, collectively, if we had to give advice for aspiring developers, what would it be? Feel free to think about this.
Is it like in general or just in regards to the boot camp?
Either. Even boot camps in general. Would I like to... go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like just doing a boot camp in general really helped my discipline and just like being fed what I need to know, like what topics to cover. Like if I was just like completely self-taught, I feel like I could have just been meandering around, just like dabbling here, there, and like not been proficient at anything. So I feel like just, I mean, boot camps can be a little pricey or whatever, but like just that making that commitment, like I feel like it really helped me just stay on like a straight and narrow path and get stuff done. And now I'm here, I have a skill set instead of like just going all over the place.
It's good advice. I went all over the place for 1.5 years, and then I finally joined a coding boot camp. So I needed that.
Yeah, cool. I agree with that 100%. I mean, you can definitely, and you'll see a ton of critics of boot camps. And so, I mean, everyone will tell you this stuff is online, it's all free, it's all out there. And that is absolutely true. But it takes a certain type of person to actually be able to like organize that, commit to it, understand that path, and like work through it, at the pace that they need to really get it to sink in. So, I felt like for me personally, like I do have like the discipline to kind of sit down and work through it, but it was really helpful to have like a structure and like sort of a guaranteed path of like, we feel really confident that this path that we've laid out will give you the skills that you need to like get an entry level job. And in my case, I got super lucky because the company that I'm using uses a Node and React like stack. And so like it lined up very well with like what I had learned. And so I felt, coming into the job, I mean, obviously having some internship time as well. Like I felt very prepared for that. So if that's something that you feel like you need that structure or like you want that structure, then I would definitely do your research on boot camps because they're not all created equal, as I'm sure you're aware. And it kind of depends on what experience you're looking for.
I like it.
Yeah. And I pretty much what I'm going to say is like really similar, but I also recommend like before going into any boot camp, look at like free code camp or any other free services before really committing to boot camp. Because like for me, I studied like I think it was a few coding books, Team Treehouse, and I was learning, but I wasn't feeling too confident, and I was felt I could learn more, or I wasn't really like at the point I need to be to apply for jobs. But it wasn't until like joining Springboard where I knew I had a goal at the end to get that degree and then the job guarantee that it really like kind of like lit a fire under me to push myself to complete everything. And like I know even like during Springboard, I took like I think a month break just to learn like React Native just to kind of help my resume. And I know from like having to really Google, like look through coding documents, that helped a lot, and a lot of that I learned through Springboard and also through the mentorships. And I forgot to mention also the mentorships. I think was probably one of the best things about Springboard that I got out of it.
Okay.
Yeah, the mentorship and the career coaching were like the two things that are why I picked Springboard in particular. Plus being a little bit familiar with Colt Steel, but those two elements were definitely like big in my, like why I chose Springboard. But yeah, I mean, as far as advice goes, I'd also just say like, code every day and maybe not, I mean, don't take weekends off, like don't burn yourself out by any means, but like you got to be coding like most days to like, for it to really sink in and for you to feel like you're learning. So.
All good advice. I love it. All right, let's jump right into our outros. If you're building an app, you're trying to gain a user base, feel free to shout out what that app is, or even if it's if it's a website and you have a URL, that's fine too. But one question: is everyone okay with me in the show notes putting your LinkedIn's if people want to reach out to you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. Cool. Well, we're also just going to repeat it in the outros, but Matt, where could people reach you if they want to reach you?
I'm on LinkedIn / Matt McFarland. Feel free to reach out. I've talked to a couple of people that are interested in Springboard that have just randomly reached out. So don't hesitate. I'm also at Hey I'm Matt on GitHub and Twitter, though I'm on a social media break at the moment, so not super active on Twitter, but you feel free to hit me up there too.
I like it. That's smart. Okay, for me, if you want to reach me, DonTheDeveloper.tv, go to the contact link and it should email me directly. Feel free to reach out to me. But, as always, appreciate, we did get partnered. Thanks to everyone that's been sharing, liking the videos, commenting. All helps these videos get shared with the YouTube's algorithm. So please keep it up. I love you guys. You're awesome. So I just want to say thank you so much for that. But how about you, Chris? Where can people reach you?
Currently on LinkedIn and Twitter. LinkedIn, I'm Chris Connor, but I think there's like dozens of Chris Connor. So if you search, hopefully you'll see my name. I have like the same photo on both LinkedIn and Twitter. But on Twitter, I'm at ChrisCodes57. So hopefully that's easier to find.
Cool.
My name's generic.
Thanks, Chris. How about you, Kudo?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You should find my name. It's pretty unique. Kudo Mokatia. And you could DM me on Instagram. It's _Kudaman. I'm willing to talk there as well.
All right. Sounds good. We'll stick around. for just a couple minutes after the podcast. But everyone, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. It should link at the end of the video. It should link to another podcast video. I'm kind of curious, and I want to hear in the comments, does it link to a video you even care about? Or should I like manually put it in? I'm just wondering if YouTube's like super accurate with that. But let me know in the comments. But thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Or listening. I'm Buzzsprout. We'll see you in the next video. Matt, Chris, Kuda, thanks so much for hopping on. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Pleasure.